France, 1942. The Gestapo is desperate. Their most wanted enemy isn't a general or a soldier, it's a woman with a limp. In their reports, she's described as the most dangerous of all Allied spies. Later, history would remember her as the limping lady. This is the forgotten story of Virginia Hall, America's most dangerous spy, and the woman Hitler couldn't catch. Welcome to Deleted Histories. Today we dive into the life of a woman who built an underground empire right under the Nazis' noses, and whose heroism history nearly erased. Virginia Hall was born in Baltimore in 1906, into a wealthy family with expectations of refinement and tradition. But from a young age, Virginia showed little interest in embroidery or etiquette. Instead, she spent her childhood outdoors, hunting with her father, fishing in nearby rivers, and climbing trees in skirts not designed for it. Where others saw a girl destined for polite society, Virginia imagined a bigger world. By her 20s, she had studied at Barnard in New York, Radcliffe in Massachusetts, the Sorbonne in Paris, and the Consular Academy in Vienna. She absorbed languages like oxygen, French, German, Italian, Spanish, and conversational Russian. She was clever, quick-witted, and already dreaming of a life in diplomacy. Her ambition was clear: to become a US Foreign Service officer. Few women had managed it. Virginia intended to be one of them, but fate intervened in the most brutal way. In 1933, while hunting in Turkey, her shotgun misfired and tore into her left leg. Infection followed. Gangrene set in. The surgeons amputated below the knee. Virginia's new companion was a heavy wooden prosthetic leg, which she named Cuthbert. She treated it with dark humour, telling friends when Cuthbert was misbehaving or dragging behind her. But in reality, the adjustment was grueling. She had to relearn everything: walking, running, even dancing. She forced herself through the pain. Slowly, she adapted. She was determined that her limp would not be the end of her adventures. When she reapplied to the US State Department, however, she discovered the world did not see her resilience, only her disability. Despite passing the written exams, she was rejected as unsuitable for foreign service. The woman who spoke 5 languages, had studied across Europe, and had travelled more than most diplomats, was dismissed because of Cuthbert. By 1939, Virginia was living in Paris, working as a clerk at the American Embassy. When Nazi tanks rolled into the city in 1940, she volunteered as an ambulance driver. With shells exploding overhead, she ferried the wounded through streets choked with rubble. When France fell, she had a choice: retreat home or stay and fight. She chose fight. Through contacts, she found her way into Britain's Special Operations Executive. The SOE, Winston Churchill had created it to set Europe ablaze. Their mission: sabotage, espionage, and resistance. Virginia was one of the first women they accepted. Her training was grueling: wireless transmissions, codes, explosives, disguises. Men twice her size collapsed under the strain. Virginia gritted her teeth and carried Cuthbert across obstacle courses. In 1941, Virginia was inserted into Vichy, France, undercover as a reporter for the New York Post. Her destination? Lyon, a hub of underground resistance. There, she began building a network. Piece by piece, she recruited safe housekeepers, doctors, couriers, priests, farmers. She organised forgers to make papers, trained locals in sabotage, and established escape lines for downed Allied pilots. Her network became known as Heckler, and soon Lyon was buzzing with activity. Explosives smuggled in wine barrels, secret messages tucked inside baguettes, farmers quietly derailing German supply trains in the night. Virginia, codenamed Marie, was at the centre of it all. The Gestapo began to notice. In their files, she was described as the most dangerous Allied agent. Rewards were offered for her capture, but no one suspected that the limping American woman sitting in a cafe was orchestrating chaos beneath their noses. By 1942, the pressure intensified. Klaus Barbie, the infamous Butcher of Lyon, unleashed a wave of arrests, interrogations, and torture. Resistance cells collapsed. Informants whispered. Virginia's cover was blown. Staying meant capture, and capture meant death. Her only chance was to escape across the Pyrenees into Spain, on foot in winter, dragging Cuthbert step by step across icy mountain passes. From the mountains, she radioed London. "Cuthbert is giving me trouble." London, thinking Cuthbert was a fellow agent, replied, "If Cuthbert is troublesome, have him eliminated." Virginia laughed, adjusted her wooden leg, and kept climbing. Exhausted and frostbitten, she made it to Spain, where she was briefly jailed for illegal entry. But her diplomatic charm carried her through, and she returned to London, battered but unbroken. Most would have stopped. Virginia volunteered to return. Now working with the American OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, forerunner of the CIA, she parachuted back into France in 1944. This time her disguise was even bolder. She transformed herself into an old peasant woman. She dyed her hair grey, smeared her face with dirt, slouched her shoulders, and shuffled as though crippled with age. Even her limp, once a liability, became part of the disguise. As the old woman of the farm, she roamed freely, training resistance fighters in sabotage and coordinating operations before D-Day. Her networks blew up bridges, cut rail lines, and ambushed German convoys. When the Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy, Virginia's resistance fighters were ready. Entire German supply lines collapsed, in no small part thanks to her careful preparation. When the dust settled, Virginia Hall was recognised as one of the most effective Allied agents of the war. She became the only civilian woman to receive the Distinguished Service Cross, the United States' second highest military honour for bravery. She received it in a quiet ceremony. No fanfare, no parades. Much of her record remained classified. But her work wasn't done. Virginia joined the newly founded CIA, becoming one of its first female officers. She served in clandestine roles for over 15 years, retiring in 1966. And then, she faded into obscurity. While generals gave interviews and politicians wrote memoirs, Virginia lived quietly on a farm in Maryland with her husband, another OSS veteran. She died in 1982. So why isn't Virginia Hall a household name? Was it her disability, an inconvenient truth in a post-war culture obsessed with heroic images of strength? Was it her gender, overshadowed in a field where men's stories took the spotlight? Or was it the secrecy of her work, buried in classified files for decades? The answer is likely all three. But history doesn't erase courage. Virginia Hall outwitted the Gestapo, built vast networks of resistance, and helped turn the tide of war. And she did it all with a wooden leg she jokingly called Cuthbert. She proved that determination can outpace prejudice, and that a single person, unrecognised, underestimated, can change the course of history. Virginia Hall was a master of disguise, a builder of networks and a breaker of barriers. She changed the war and then slipped quietly back into the shadows. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more Deleted Histories, forgotten tales, strange truths. See you in the next one.